Yeah.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Scotty Talks NBA. What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Scotty Talks NBA. As you know, we are always presented to you by DSM Media. If you're not following DSM Media, I don't know what the hell you're doing, but make sure you go follow DSM Media on TikTok at DSM Media, on Twitter at DSM_media, and on Instagram at DSM.DoSomethingMajor. You can also find us on Facebook. Just search up DSM Media. You'll see the logo. Follow us, like us on there. Content gets streamed there every day, Twitter every day, TikTok every day, and of course our YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed, notifications on DSM Media's YouTube page. Once again, just type in DSM Media. You will see our logo. Hit that subscribe button and join the party. Let's get involved, get engaged on these shows. We want to get you involved through the comments. The best way to do that is through YouTube. And we're going to have a lot of exclusive content starting specifically once NFL season comes around, Eagles season. You're going to see a lot of exclusive content just on the YouTube page. Really want to grow the following there. So head on over, hit subscribe. And of course, for myself, make sure you follow me if you're not already at Scotty Drown. That's across the board on social media platforms. But enough of the small talk. What we're going to get into today, obviously, we had the Sixers Heat take on game one last night in Miami. Sixers came away with the L. We're going to dig into that. We're going to talk about Sixers Heat game two, which will actually be taking place on the day that you're seeing this. Filming this Tuesday night, airs on Wednesday mornings, as you guys know, every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to talk about the game two. We're going to get predictions in here. And then, of course, as we do all the time, quick overview of just all the other action that's currently going on around the NBA. So we'll start there. Just a quick trip around the NBA. So we got two games tonight that's happening, as I speak. So the Bucks, Celtics are squaring off in Boston for the game two there. Bucks took the first one. Celtics are in control right now. They're up by 15, 83-68. Early in the fourth quarter, excuse me. The Bucks are trying to make a small comeback there. I did have Boston winning this game. Like I said, I have this series going 7 games. Looks like they're going to take care of business. Knock on wood, barring a blown lead. Have some money on Boston riding tonight. So need them to come away with the dub. Nonetheless, they had to hold down their home court somewhat. I know Marcus Smart is injured, but they still got the pieces. Giannis is missing his road dog and Chris Middleton. Bucks are a little beat up, so there's opportunity there for the Boston Celtics. They're a great team in the Eastern Conference. Let's not get confused. I know I have the series going 7. That means Boston has to win some games. They have to win at least 3 games in this series. So I had a feeling they're going to take the win tonight as they're on pace to currently. I'll let you know how it finishes if it does conclude by the end of the show. But I have them evening up the series tonight. And I think it's going to go like that down through the wire. I think Boston, just give you a preview of what I'm thinking down the line in the series. I think Boston's going to steal one in Milwaukee. I think they're going to steal it right back. I just had Milwaukee winning that game 1, stealing one in Boston because they're coming out. They were the underdog. People were, talking about the defending champs like they can't beat the Boston Celtics. People picking the Celtics in the series. I knew Giannis. I knew they were going to come out, have an answer for that. Come out with a lot of energy, play with poise in game 1, as they did, took care of business. Now in game 2, you're starting to see the Boston strength as well as the lack of depth, when you're missing Chris Middleton in Milwaukee there. So that series right now looking like it's about to be 1-1, still sitting at currently 1-0 Milwaukee. Later on, we got some action going on with the Golden State Warriors and the Memphis Grizzlies. As of right now, the Grizzlies are a 2-point favorite. They, obviously had control of that entire game one. You're at home. You have all the crowd momentum. Jaren Jackson III had a huge game, hit 6 threes in that game. John Morant, borderline triple-double in that game. So both of those guys played well. The rest of the team simply didn't. Desmond Bane didn't look good. Dylan Brooks did not look good. So some guys are going to have to step up for Memphis tonight. I'll be honest with you. I think Memphis holds it down tonight. I think they take game 2. They tie this series up 1-1 heading back to Golden State. The reason being, if they don't, they're getting swept. So they have to take care of home court advantage tonight. Get game 2, then you go up to Golden State, San Francisco, with hopes of tying or taking that home game back, reclaiming home court advantage. And simply put, if they do not win tonight, it's a wrap for these guys. They need to win. So I don't want to see Memphis get swept. I don't think they get swept. I have this series going 6 games. That means Memphis has got to take care of some business at home. So I got Memphis to win game 2 here. Just looking at a little bit of the action from last night. Obviously we had the Sixers. We're going to dig into that. But we also had the Suns and the Dallas Mavericks squaring off. Suns were able to get the win at home, 121-114 over Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks. Key contributors in this game, DeAndre Ayton, 25 points, 8 rebounds, 12 for 20 from the field. That's ultimately that right there. Boom. That's why I picked the Suns in this series, because simply put, the Mavericks do not have anyone the caliber of DeAndre Ayton down playing in the post, center, power forward. They don't have anything close to a DeAndre Ayton level player. So DeAndre Ayton, 25 points, 8 rebounds, 12 for 20 from the field. Efficient night. Devin Booker, back last night, able to provide a punch. 23 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists. Borderline triple-double for D-Book, first game back from that hamstring injury. 7 for 20 from the field, 1 for 5 from the 3. Definitely want to see better shooting. It'll get better. It's his first game back from injury. But you love seeing the borderline triple-double first game back. CP3, 19 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 7 for 13 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3. He got to take a little bit of a back seat in that game. He's been carrying the load, as you could see in game 6 against New Orleans. So it was good to see Devin Booker back, take a little bit of that load off of CP3 as far as running this team. Luka Doncic, my God. Somebody asked me last night, who would I rather have, Luka Doncic or Devin Booker starting a team? I'm going Luka Doncic. He's a little bit younger. Scoring cap is a little bit higher, in my opinion. Obviously, Devin Booker has had some crazy scoring games. Don't get it twisted. They both can score at an elite level. I just think that Luka does more, period. I just think he does more. I think Devin Booker is probably the better defender at this point in their careers, but that's something that Luka can definitely work on down the stretch of his career, get into a little bit better shape, turn into a better defender, better reactor. But as far as offense and everything else, intangibles that go into the game, 45 points, 12 rebounds, 8 assists, efficient night, 15 for 30 from the field, 4 for 11 from the three-point line. He put it all on the court. Still wasn't enough. They still lose by 7 in that game. Maxi Kleber, he had 19 points, 6 for 9 from the field, 5 for 8 from the three-point line. So he was hot from 3. And then Jalen Brunson with kind of a down night. Obviously, you have Luka back in the mix, so he's not going to have those big nights that you were seeing there. 13 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 6 for 16 from the field. So what do we need to see from the Mavs going forward? It's going to take some more efforts like that from Luka. But honestly, as long as Devin Booker, CP3, DeAndre Ayton are playing, Mikal Bridges, that team is just so deep there in Phoenix. I have a hard time seeing Dallas, come away with this series. And I have it going 6. Devin Booker back. Devin Booker looking healthy. Maybe 5 for Phoenix. But we'll see. I'm not going to discount Luka too much. Love Luka Doncic. Let's hope that he can, certainly make that a series. Just want to make sure. Okay, cool. So we got everything good with the audio. Just making sure you guys are hearing me correctly out there, hearing me clearly. So now, the meat of the show, you guys know. Let me get my swig of coffee here. Charlie Brown Christmas. It's time to recap game one. Philadelphia 76ers, Miami Heat. The title of the show today, Sixers fall flat in game one. The reason I titled it that, they did just that in the second half. Had an amazing first half. We were able to come out, take care of business and eventually get the lead right before half, 51-50. Harden had an incredible first half. Tobias Harris had an incredible game. Sixers struggled from the floor, obviously, but they fell flat in that third quarter. There was a point in the third quarter, I believe it was, and excuse me, I'm burping here. Excuse me. There was a point in the third quarter where, it really went off the rails for the Sixers. They couldn't get a bucket. Miami was getting back-to-back buckets. And I think it was painfully obvious that lineup included DeAndre Jordan. And I think that's the storyline from last night. The Sixers end up losing this game 106-92. You look at DeAndre Jordan, I'll give you all the goddamn numbers in the world. For some reason, you can the thing about DeAndre Jordan, you know what I mean? Like, we can bring the numbers. It's the same thing, the Jokic fans do. They bring Jokic's numbers, analytics to the basketball court, right? I generally like to use my eyes to gauge what I'm seeing. You can have some misleading numbers showing you that somebody had a bad night, which I think that's what's happening with James Harden right now. We'll talk about James Harden a little bit. The narratives created about this dude, it's fucking weird. It's weird. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but I want to stick to what I'm talking about right now. DeAndre Jordan's numbers won't lie to you, because if you watch him in the game like I did last night, you see it for yourself. It's painfully obvious just using your eyes. But the numbers are there to support it. So it's not one of these misleading things. DeAndre Jordan, he was a negative 22 in the plus minus in 17 minutes last night. So negative 22, right? That means the team is 22 points worse with DeAndre Jordan on the floor than when he is not. And so when you look at that, how do you go negative 22 in 17 minutes? It means you're losing a point, more than a point per minute, right? 4 points, 2 rebounds, 17 minutes, dog. 7-foot center. And you're out there going against 6'10" Bam Adebayo, PJ Tucker like 6'7". 2 rebounds, dog. And Doc told us that he rebounded the ball so well. We're going to get to Doc because he's the culprit here. It's not DeAndre Jordan. It's not his fault. He doesn't insert himself into the games. 4 points, 2 rebounds, 17 minutes. Listen to this. Negative 68.8 net rating. Negative 68.8 net rating when DeAndre Jordan is on the court. As one of my favorite Sixers podcast guys, Trill Bro Dude, says, he's the worst player in the NBA. And he's starting for the Sixers in the second round of the playoffs. DeAndre Jordan is the worst active player in the NBA that gets playing time. It's very, very clear. It's very, when you watch it, it's like I said, it's painfully obvious. He is the worst player in the NBA that actually gets play. He's starting in the second round for the Sixers. Minus 68.8 net rating on court for the Sixers with DeAndre Jordan. Sixers without DeAndre Jordan, plus 11.6 net rating when DeAndre Jordan's off the court. So the Sixers are close to plus 12 when DeAndre Jordan's off the court. The numbers speak for themselves. You watch him in the game since he's gotten to Philly, it speaks for itself. He is detrimental. He is a detractor. There's guys you can throw on the court, and they may just give you a little bit of nothing and a little bit of something to equal out to nothing, right? DeAndre Jordan is a detractor. That means when he steps on the court, things go downhill, and they go downhill fast. That's what we saw happen in the third quarter. Now, I get it. Paul Reed, foul trouble, it's his thing. That's his That's Paul Reed's detractor right now, why he can't get major minutes with Embiid out. Which, what? Paul Reed, how many minutes did Paul Reed get last night? Let's take a look here. Not enough. 13. Not enough. Ended the game with what? 5 fouls. So he was in foul trouble most of the game. It's understandable, at least. You get it. You get it. But what I would say is that you use Paul Reed until you can't. If he gets 2 fouls in the first, then you take him out as soon as he gets 2 fouls, and then you go from there. Paul Reed needs to be the guy that starts, in my opinion. You do what you got to do. I think he matches up the best with Bam Adebayo. It's so funny. It's so funny that, in Doc's presser, he's talking about Paul Reed isn't a good matchup for Bam. Paul Reed is the best matchup for Bam Adebayo aside from Joel Embiid on this team. Paul Reed is lengthy enough. He is athletic enough to bang down there with Bam Adebayo. He looked the best against the Heat in general yesterday. Against the Heat in general. I don't understand what Doc is watching. I would throw Charles Bassey, who hasn't played in like a month, out there before I would throw DeAndre Jordan on the court. I would 110% throw Paul Millsap out there on the court before I throw DeAndre Jordan out there. 120%. I'm throwing any one of those three guys out there before DeAndre Jordan. And even more before I put DeAndre Jordan out there on the court to start at center for my team. I'm putting Tobias Harris at center before I put DeAndre Jordan. I'm putting George Niang at center before I put DeAndre Jordan in the game. I want to make this so clear. I will put in almost anybody on the roster on the court before DeAndre Jordan. I'll go full-on small ball, nobody over 6'8" on the court before I put DeAndre Jordan on the court. Because he just doesn't play with effort. He's a loser. He plays with a loser mentality. I don't know if it's because he's old, he can't move around, he can't put out that effort. But I don't want to see it on my team. I don't want to see it on the court for the Sixers. And I'm sick of Doc doing it. And then you speak all condescending, whether we like it or not, you're going to see DeAndre. What the fuck are you talking about, Doc? Do you want to lose your job? Are you trying to lose your job? And if he's not feeling that his job's in jeopardy, somebody put a whisper in his ear. Daryl Morey, step to the table, because let's be honest. Let's be 120% transparent here. The Sixers' mishaps right now, the Sixers' weaknesses, you went out, you got James Harden for Ben Simmons. Fucking hoorah. You didn't address anything else. Anything. There were people talking about it throughout the season. I always say, like, if we don't have Embiid, we don't have a chance anyways. But God damn it, if Embiid's out for a week, we should be able to survive. And we can't. There's weaknesses that are showing that even with Embiid, it makes you question if they can really, really push it to the Eastern Conference Finals or push it to the NBA Finals. And it's because there's zero athleticism on this team. There's zero wing defender. You can't play Matisse against Miami. You can't play him against Toronto. You think you can play him against Boston or Milwaukee? He's unplayable on offense. And then you have the dumb fouls on defense on top of it when he's out of rhythm. So Matisse, he's probably the most athletic wing you have, and he's unplayable because he can't function as an offensive player. And then after Matisse, who is it? Danny Green? The guy that can barely dunk? Can't dribble? Who's next? Who's the next most athletic? Tobias Harris? He's not a high flyer, with all due respect. There's no athleticism here. And God willing, Tobias Harris is playing some great defense. Shout out to Tobias. Talk about some positives from, last night. Tobias Harris, 27 points, 6 rebounds, 11 for 18, 1 for 4 from the three-point line. Efficient. smart decisions, giving it all on the defensive end, carrying this team throughout most of the first part of the game. He couldn't keep him afloat because he had zero help. Tobias Harris, aside from Joel Embiid, obviously, Tobias Harris has been the best player on the Sixers. So I just wonder where all those Tobias haters are at and where their mindset is at. Because it was so clear once James Harden got here that Tobias was going to be the piece to fall on the sword after the postseason. I'll tell you right now, he's not on pace to fall on any swords. It's going to be Doc Rivers, period. It's going to be Doc Rivers, and it has to be if this continues. And that's what I'm getting with Daryl Morey. You didn't address any of the weaknesses. You didn't address anything. You go out, you bring in a fourth center instead of bringing in another wing defender, another guy that can spread the floor. You bring in a fourth center that shouldn't even be in the NBA, DeAndre Jordan. So who's in control? Is it Doc Rivers or is it Daryl Morey? Is it Elton Brand? Who is in control here? Because somebody's making some dumbass decisions. The James Harden trade, I do not regret it. You send it 1,000 times over. But the lack of athleticism is just ridiculous on the wing. I mean, it is just ridiculous. And you see last night, guys like PJ Tucker out there out rebounding guys on the. I mean, make it make sense. You got PJ Tucker just out there like flexing, grabbing offensive boards consecutively from George Niang, from Tobias Harris. Tobias, got to be stronger. You got to be able to get boards over PJ Tucker, my dude. That's one thing I will say. George Niang, hold on to the goddamn ball. If you're not going to hit shots, 0 for 7 from the field, 0 for 7 from 3, grab the rebounds and hold on to them, please. Please do that for me. Talk about the shooting. I mentioned George Niang, right? George Niang, Danny Green, Tyrese Maxey, James Harden, Tobias Harris. You know what they combined for from the three-point line last night? 5 for 29 from the three-point line between those 5 players. That's 17.2% from the three-point line. You can't win games like that. The team as a whole, 6 for 34. 6 for 34 from the three. That's 17.6% from the three-point line. You cannot beat the number 1 seed in the East without your MVP shooting the ball like that. Now, don't get it wrong. Don't get it twisted. Miami is one of the best teams in the NBA at defending the three, if not the best. So there is something to go along with that is credit to Miami. They play good defense. They're a great defensive team. A lot of those looks were open. Make the shots, Danny. Make the shots, Niang, specifically. I know Maxey will bounce back. I'm not worried about him. Harden didn't shoot that terrible. I just lumped him in there. Tobias didn't shoot that terrible. I lumped him in there. It really falls on Niang, Danny Green, and I assume Tyrese Maxey's just simply going to shoot better. Just my opinion. Danny Green, Niang, you guys got to show up. We need you now more than ever. Now more than ever. Talk about Tyrese Maxey in that game. 19 points, 2 assists, 6 for 15 from the field, 1 for 6 from the three. Like I said, I expect him to be better. The shot was flat last night. He came out a little flat, it looked like. Maybe a little bit too much pressure. Didn't know what he was walking into without Embiid last night. Hope to see something better, more confidence from him, more of a showing in game 2. You look at James Harden. I really got to address this because it's getting quite annoying. I mean, you have some of these guys out here. Like I saw a narrative driven up from last night. This is where I don't understand. There's this narrative driven up from last night talking about James Harden is a scammer and he doesn't want to win. Based on what from last night shows you that? What did you even, like, body language wise? Even if you're just going off body language, you're trying to be a psychologist and you're trying to predict what James Harden is thinking on the court. What did he do last night or throughout the playoffs that signals that he just doesn't give a fuck? Like, did you say that about KD in the first round? Because KD stunk the fucking place up. And it is not being talked about. The Nets got swept because KD was ass. You talk about KD and his rings and comparing him to Harden. KD was on the best team of all time. You talk about Michael Jordan. Look at KD. He was on a team with Steph, Clay, and Draymond. A team that had already won a ring before him. And you have the nerve to throw these narratives around with James Harden. It's so fucking weird. It's so weird. I never paid attention to the narratives. I really never paid attention to really anything regarding James Harden. I knew he was an MVP candidate. I took the numbers for what they were. I didn't pay attention to him that much as far as when he was in the Western Conference. Let's be honest. So I didn't know about these narratives until we started seeing them with the Brooklyn Nets. You start hearing it come out. You joke around about it as a Philly fan. It's probably annoying for a Nets fan at that time, given what Harden was producing. Same thing here in Philly. Producing at a level, Ben Simmons didn't provide that. He's an all-star. He was highly renowned, right? Where do these narratives come from? Harden last night, 16 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 for 13 from the field, 2 for 7 for 3. Took 13 shots. Did you watch the game? Because this is where the inconsistency and this is where my problem comes in. Are you just looking at a box score, you see 16 points, you see 13 shots, and you say Harden wasn't aggressive enough, he didn't want to win? Because that's what it seems like. That's what it seems like national media does. That's what it seems like anybody outside of Philly does. We look at the box score, we say 16 points for Harden, that's not enough. 13 shots for Harden, that's not enough. Context doesn't matter. You watched the game last night, you'll know why Harden ended up with the numbers that he had. How can he go out there, aside from jacking up threes, and get a bucket if Danny Green can't hit the side of a barn? Tobias Harris. George Niang can't hit the side of a barn. Maxey can't hit the side of a barn. So guess what their men are doing? They're cheating over on James Harden and Tobias Harris. From the third quarter and on, James Harden was being double-teamed, triple-teamed at times. 3 guys with their eyes on James Harden with the ball. And the same thing was happening to Tobias. 2, 3 guys looking at him with the ball in his hands when he has it because nobody else was hitting shots. So it causes me to think that people don't understand basketball. They never played. You don't have to play to understand. I'll make that transparent as fuck. You don't have to play basketball to understand how it works. You just have to love the game and watch it and understand the game enough. And it doesn't seem like people are willing or able to do that. It's false narratives. It's empty information. It's bad, misleading information. James Harden has done nothing. He has shown no body language. He has not walked off the court without talking to his teammates. He has not said things in post-game conferences that lead you to believe that he doesn't care about winning. In fact, all he insinuates is that that's all he cares about. Not stat padding, none of that, none of what y'all are talking about, scoring 30 points a game, being the Harden from Houston. He wants to win. He can't win when everybody around him doesn't play good enough. It's that goddamn simple, man. It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating, my guys. Just to give you some context from the Miami side, Harrow, Bam, they played great games. Jimmy could be better, but still had a decent game. So Tyler Harrow, 25 points, 7 assists, 9 for 17 from the field, 4 for 6 from 3. Excuse me. Guy was lighting it up last night. Guy was lighting it up. Big shot after big shot. You talk about when the Sixers are about to creep back in. Big three. Boom. Put them down. That happened several times throughout the game. Even had some hustle plays where he gets his own rebound. It's pitiful on the Sixers side, but great hustle by Tyler Harrow. And he seemed like he had a chip on his shoulder. You know, last time they played, Tyrese Maxey got the best of him. He looked like he had a chip on his shoulder last night. Bam Adebayo, 24 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, 8 for 10 for the field. Can't have a much better game than that for Bam Adebayo. Jimmy Butler, 15 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 5 for 16 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3. He's going to be better. That's still a solid game when you're coming back fresh off an injury. And then, of course, Heat out-rebounded the Sixers. It was very clear if you watch the game. It was excruciating to watch. 47 rebounds to the Sixers' 37. So out-rebounded by 10 rebounds. I bet all of them were offensive. Just some key notes to kind of finalize the recap here. Doc has to take DJ out of the goddamn lineup, period. I'll leave it at that. I already spent enough time on DJ. The focus here, as far as, if Embiid's coming back game 3, which pray to God that he's coming back game 3, because if not, it's going to be long, man. It's going to be a long, quick series, if that makes sense. Paul Reed, he has to start. He has to be the guy unless he gets in foul trouble. If he gets in foul trouble, you go small ball, period. Simple. Small ball and Paul Reed, that's who it should be. If you need to extend into the deeper parts of your center position, go to Charles Bassey. Simple. Shooting has to be better. 6 for 34, not going to cut it. 17.6% from the 3, not going to cut it when you are the undermanned team. No Lowry in game 2, leaves the door wide open. We're going to see how that plays out. Missing the first 2 games of this series, and Sixers need to take advantage. Miami, it's not like they shot the laces off the ball. Tyler Hero did. The rest of the team did not. 9 for 36 from the three-point line. They will be better next game. Best believe it. The Miami Heat, you best believe Eric Spoelstra, one of the best coaches in the game. He will adjust. And you put DeAndre Jordan out there again in game 2, they are going to abuse him like you have never seen before. They're going to focus on abusing him more if Doc Rivers wants to throw him out there again. As I said earlier, I expect Jimmy Buckets to be better. He was getting played physical last night. I like the way the Sixers played him. Don't know if the referees are going to allow that throughout a series, but love the way he was played, but I expect him to be a little bit better. Harden and Maxey, they have to take advantage of Max Strus and Tyler Hero on switches. You have to make them pay. They're going to switch on to you. You have to make them pay. Harden's numbers specifically against Max Strus were not very good last night. That has to change. Got to take advantage of mismatches. What are supposed to be mismatches? You need Tobias to stay aggressive. Everything he did last night, just keep it up. Keep doing what you're doing, playing defense, taking good shots, and literally bringing the energy for your team, leading your team right now, Tobias. Stay aggressive. Doc, just all around, has to be better. There was a time in the game where Korkmaz, Matisse Thybulle, and DeAndre Jordan were on the court at the same time. That cannot fucking happen in the second round of the playoffs. Especially not when you have time on the scoreboard to actually catch up. It wasn't like the end of the game situation where the Sixers are down a lot and they throw those guys in. That happened in the third quarter. Cannot happen. Doc has to be better. And one thing I will say that I noticed, and I'm sure it's plain as day, if Embiid was here, this series might not be close, man. And I'll leave it at that with all due respect to Miami. A lot of what happened last night is canceled out with Joel Embiid and added on the Sixers side. Probably win the rebounding battle. He's grabbing at least 10 boards himself. Defense is going to be much better. Paint protected. A lot less offensive rebounds. And, of course, the guy averages 25 to 30 points. We need him back ASAP. Game 3, like I said in the last episode, you don't get him back by game 3, it might be too late. Game 4, game 5, game 6, it's too late. Be a short, long series if that happens. Game 2 prediction, guys. Don't get it twisted right here. I still got Sixers in 7, period. As far as how I think the game's going to play out, Maxey, he's going to shoot much better. Like I said earlier, I think Maxey bounces back in this game. I think he could be a high point for the Sixers. I think the Sixers are going to play much better. I think they're going to shoot the ball better. I think they're going to rebound better. But so will Miami. Miami's going to play better. I'm telling you right now. They're a better team than what they showed last night. I think the Sixers ultimately end up losing a close one tomorrow night. Tonight, I should say, if you're watching this now. I think they're going to end up losing a close one. I hate to say it. You know, I'm a homer all the way. You know I hate to say that. It pains me to say that. And I'm hoping it works in reverse karma. I'll be honest with you. I hope it means the Sixers will win. But I think they lose a close one. But at the end of the game, I think they end up realizing, we can beat this team. We can beat this team with Embiid for sure. So I think they end up realizing that at the end of game 2, regardless of the win or loss result. I think it will be a close one, under double digits. Embiid, return game 3, mandatory Sixers win games 3 and 4, obviously. You go down to 0-2, you lose both in Miami. It is what it is. You don't have Embiid in that case. That's fine. You have to take care of business back home once you arrive back in Philly for games 3 and 4. They become mandatory wins if you lose game 2, obviously. I'll leave it at this. I think the Sixers can win game 2. I just don't know if Doc will let them. I think you force Doc's hand by reinserting Embiid into the lineup, and that's how you solve the issue of Doc Rivers. But he's saying it with his chest that he's throwing DeAndre Jordan out there again. And if he does that, it's going to be the reason we lose again. So ultimately, I think it will be closer. I think the guys will play with more energy. You'll see a better rebounding effort. You'll see guys shoot the ball better. But ultimately, DeAndre Jordan, Doc Rivers, that decision-making, that will ultimately come back to cost them in game 2 as well as game 1. You'll head back home to Philly down 0-2, and your MVP returns. You just hope for the best from there. You hope you can turn it around and get those 2 wins back home. Miami, 8.5-point favorite as of right now. I do think that the Sixers cover that. Like I said, I think the lead. I think it's a close one down to the wire. And the Sixers do stay within double digits, especially within 9 points there, cover the spread. But I do got the Miami Heat win in this game. Let's hope for the best, though. Let's hope that they don't. Let's hope the Sixers surprise me. But, just in my opinion, I think your best chance was game 1. You go in there, you have the surprise factor. They don't know what you're going to do without Joel Embiid in game 1. Game 1, you showed your hand. They were able to persevere and remain resilient through that hand, able to take you down by 14. I think the Heat come out, play even better in game 2. I think the Sixers will be better, but I think the Heat, without Embiid, they are the better team, and if they are playing up to par, the Sixers won't beat them without Embiid. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. I'm really hoping for it. But, guys, that is all I have for you for this episode. I know it's not the news you wanted to hear. I know I usually bring the positivity, the optimism. I'm still optimistic. Don't take this as I don't think the Sixers can win this game. It's not that I don't think they have a shot in hell. I just think that if they were going to win one in Miami without Embiid, it was going to be game 1, not game 2 when the Heat have already seen you and you've already shown your hand without Embiid. It's just my belief there. But nonetheless, Sixers fans, hang tight, show the energy tonight, bring it, because the Sixers need us to be supportive. They need us to be optimistic. I know I'm picking against them. That's only because I want them to shut me the fuck up, prove me wrong. I'm going to leave it at that for tonight, guys. Make sure you're subscribed to DSM Media on YouTube. Turn those notifications on so you're notified every time we go live. And, of course, make sure you're following DSM Media on Twitter at DSM_media, on TikTok at DSM Media, on IG at DSM.DoSomethingMajor. On Facebook, just search DSM Media. You'll see our logo up there in the top right corner of my screen. You'll see that logo. Follow us, like us on Facebook. And then, of course, you can find me at Scotty Drown on all the social media platforms. I bring the content daily, just like DSM Media. Bring it on both accounts. Make sure you're following me. Make sure you're following DSM Media. That's going to be it for this episode of Scotty Talks NBA. Sixers fell flat in game 1. Let's hope they turn it up in game 2. I just don't know if Doc Rivers will allow it. Go Sixers. That's it for Scotty Talks NBA. Peace, guys. Have a great day.